السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. محاضرتنا اليوم راح نحكي فيها عن depreciation ومفهوم depreciation. We will talk about depreciation, the concept of depreciation, and how to calculate depreciation. But first of all, let's check the Delta Airlines situation. Delta Airlines has invested 100 million in improving their luggage handling system to minimize luggage loss. استثمر حوالي 100 مليون دولار في نظام متابعة الحقائب لحتى يقللوا من نسبة ضياع الحقائب، وبالتالي تكلفة اللي كانت الشركة بتدفعها لحتى يدفعوا التكلفة، كانوا يدفعوها كتعويضات للأشخاص اللي ضاعت الحقائب تبعتهم، كانوا يدفعوا كمان التكاليف لإيجاد الحقائب الضائعة ورجعوها لأصحابها. And this system included like a smartphone app that allows passengers to track their bags at every stage of journey. It also had health scanners that beep when the luggage was loaded in the wrong flight. The question is, السؤال: what is the cost of the system how does the cost of the system affects the financial position of the company؟ كيف قاعد بأثر هالاستثمار، تكلفة الاستثمار، على الوضع المالي للشركة؟ And when we talk about financial position, we don't only mean the cash inflows and outflows for this system. Also, what's the cost on the business, and how to allocate this investment over its service life. Or in other words, if the company wants to own an equipment, what is the cost of owning an equipment or a piece of equipment؟ ما هي تكلفة امتلاك معدة؟ And we mean cost of owning an equipment. We doesn't only mean the cost or the price of the equipment, maintenance, electricity. All of them are part of the cost, but we want to consider the cost of this equipment on the financial position of the company. Therefore, we need the depreciation concept اللي هو التآكل. Before we talk about depreciation, we need to know that what things are that depreciate. ايش هي الاشياء اللي بصير عليها depreciation؟ Depreciation happens to what we call them fixed assets. Fixed assets are those assets or equipment that are used to generate income. It is used by the company or the business to generate income. الاسيتس اللي هي الاشياء اللي تستخدمها الشركة لحتى ايش؟ تحقق دخل. This includes equipment, delivery cars, softwares, buildings. All of them are used to generate income. So what's depreciation? The definition of depreciation is the loss or the gradual decrease of the asset's value due to use and time. النزول التدريجي أو الخسران التدريجي في قيمة الأسيت نتيجة الاستخدام والزمن. And by use, we understand what use mean. If you use the asset more, it will lose more of its value. إذا استخدمت asset معينة بشكل كبير راح تخسر أكثر من قيمتها. For example, let's take a car. For example, if you drive a car for 10,000 kilometers, it will have a certain value. But if you drive it for 50,000 kilometers, its value will become less because it has been used more. And for time, how an asset loses its value because of time even though it is not used. يعني ممكن كمان الاسيت تخسر من قيمتها بسبب مرور الزمن حتى لو لم تستخدم. مع يعني for example, let's take for example smartphones. Currently the iPhone 12 is sold approximately 5,700 riyals. After 2 years, if you are going to buy a new iPhone 12 after 2 years, it will not be sold for 5,700. It will be sold less, for example 4,000 riyals, even though it is new. Why its price is lower? Because new generations came out, and those new generations have advanced features, have advanced technology، فيها تكنولوجيا متقدمة، فيها مزايا أكثر. Therefore the old generations or the value of the old generations will become less than the value of new generations. And we can classify depreciation to economic and accounting depreciation. What we mean by economic depreciation is the same definition that we saw previously. نفس التعريف اللي شفناه سابقا، اللي هو فقدان الأسد لقيمتها، الفقدان التدريجي لقيمة الأسد نتيجة الاستخدام والزمن. The gradual loss of the asset's value due to use and time. And we can classify it to physical and functional depreciation. Physical depreciation have to do with use، له علاقة في الاستخدام. Functional depreciation have to do with time. On the other hand, the accounting depreciation, the definition of accounting depreciation is a little bit different. And this is the one we are going to use to calculate the depreciation allowance، اللي راح نستخدمه لحساب قيمة depreciation mathematically. And it is defined as the systematic allocation of an asset's value over its depreciable life. إن نعيد توزيع قيمة الأسد على إيش إحنا بنسميه depreciable life. Redistributing the asset value over its depreciable life. And we can calculate it in two methods: book depreciation and tax depreciation. Book depreciation, we have different methods: straight line, declining balance, units of production. Tax depreciation is used for tax purposes, and the calculation method is determined by the IRS، دائرة الضريبة والدخل. Okay. Now, the big question: why do we consider depreciation؟ ليش احنا بحاجة لنحسب depreciation؟ or why companies deal with depreciation؟ Actually, depreciation allows the companies to pay less income tax. Depreciation بيسمح للشركات أو للبزنس in general to pay less tax، إنهم يدفعوا ضريبة أقل or reduce the taxable income. How is this done? Actual depreciation at certain level of analysis is considered as a cost. Depreciation احنا بنعامله معاملة الcost. For any business we will have like revenue. And the profit, if you remember, the profit equals to revenue minus cost. So to calculate our profit, we need first to consider what's our revenue, and then we subtract all the costs. For example, we have material cost, direct material. We have labor, العمالة. We have manufacturing overhead. We have non-manufacturing cost. All of them are cost. Therefore, we are subtracting from the revenue. And we have now what we call it depreciation. So what is my profit? Is the revenue minus all the cost items. Then we will have what we call it taxable income، الدخل الخاضع للضريبة. And the companies pay tax based on this taxable income. والشركات بتدفع الضريبة تبعتها بناء على التاكس. If we remove depreciation, then we will have more taxable income and we will have to pay more tax. لو كان شلنا depreciation من الحسبة تبعتنا راح يطلع المبلغ أكبر، وبالتالي الشركات راح تدفع ضريبة أكبر. So the concept of depreciation is introduced to allow the companies to pay less tax or income tax. Why? This savings from the company point of view، هذا التوفير من وجهة نظر الشركة، the company can reuse it to reinvest in the business. بإمكانها تستخدم الفلوس اللي ما دفعت على الضريبة لحتى تستثمر فيها في البزنس وتقوي الشغل تبعها. تمام؟ If the government took large amount of tax، إذا الحكومة أجت وأخذت ضريبة عالية من الشركات، بعض الشركات راح تخسر وتسكر، ما راح تتحمل. لكن لو أخذت منها ضريبة أقل، الشركات راح تستمر وتتطور وتكبر. تمام؟ and therefore we need the concept of depreciation to reduce the taxable income. Now, to determine the depreciation allowance, we have to determine those four things at the beginning: the cost of the asset, or we call it cost basis, salvage value, disposal value, depreciable life, for how long, الفترة اللي أنا بدي أعمل عليها depreciation. Is this asset can be depreciated for 10 years, 7, 5 years, or 3 years? And the method for calculating the depreciation, the how. So, for calculating the depreciation, I have to determine those four elements. Okay. What is depreciable? ايش هي الاشياء اللي بتخضع للديبريشيشن؟ او ما هي الاشياء اللي بصير لها depreciation? What assets that go under depreciation or that depreciate? Any asset to be depreciable asset, it has to satisfy all the three conditions. Those three conditions: it must be used in the business, it must be, or it must have a definite service life, it must wear, become obsolete, or lose its value. يعني أي asset خاضع للdepreciation يجب أن تستخدم في البزنس. I must use it in the business. If I'm using my personal car in the business, my car is not a depreciable asset for that business. إذا أنا بستخدم سيارتي في الشغل، سيارتي الشخصية في الشغل، معناته سيارة الشركة ما بتقدر تعمل depreciation على سيارتي لأنها لا تستخدم in the business. I'm not using it's not used in the business. يعني بستخدم سيارتي لأروح وأجي على الشغل، الشركة ما بتقدر تعمل depreciation لسيارتي لحتى تقلل من الضريبة اللي عليها. Also it must has a definite useful life. لازم يكون لها عمر محدد، ولازم الشرط الثالث يجب أن تستهلك أو تصبح قديمة أو إنها بشكل أو بآخر تخسر من قيمتها. And therefore land is not a depreciable asset. We cannot depreciate land. ما بنقدر ندخل الأرض في حساب depreciation because land doesn't have a definite service life. Therefore doesn't satisfy the second condition. Now, what is the cost basis? The first element. The cost basis is all the expenses, okay, that a company pays to make use of an asset. It includes the actual cost or the price of the asset. يعني الكوست بيسز هي كل شيء أنا بدفعه لحتى أقدر أستفيد من الأسد. وهذا الكلام لا يقتصر فقط على سعر الأسد. It doesn't only include the actual cost or the price of the asset. It includes the actual cost of the asset, the price of the asset, plus incidental expenses والمصاريف الأخرى اللي أنا بدفعها. For example, freight اللي هي تكاليف الشحن, site preparation, installation, تحضير الموقع, wiring system, تمديدات الكهرباء, electrical wiring, preparing foundations, تجهيز القواعد, installation, تركيب, تكاليف التركيب. All of them are included in the cost basis. And if you remember, we used to give it the symbol I and call it investment. This is the investment that the company makes in asset. It is not only the price, it is the price of the equipment, freight, site preparation, installation, and any other cost that the company pays to make use of this asset. Let's see this example. Lanier Corporation purchased an automatic hole punching machine. The price for the machine is $62,500. ثمن الماشين 62,500. They paid a sales tax $3,263. Okay. Transportation cost or charges, تكاليف الشحن $725, 725. Labor cost for installation $2,115, تكاليف تركيب الانستوليشن. Site preparation $3,500. Now, what is the cost basis used for depreciation purposes? This is the cost that we will consider for depreciation. The cost of the machine, the freight, installation, site preparation, and the total cost or the total cost basis is $68,875. And note that the sales tax ضريبة المبيعات 3263 3263 is not included in the cost basis because if I pay or didn't pay the sales tax, it doesn't prevent me from using the asset. سواء دفعت 3263 اللي هي ضريبة المبيعات أو ما دفعتها ما راح يمنعني من استخدام الأسد. But if I didn't buy the asset, I cannot use it. إذا ما اشتريت الأسد ما دفعت if I didn't pay 62,500 the price of the asset, I cannot use it. If I didn't pay the freight تكاليف الشحن, I also cannot use it. If I didn't pay for the installation, I cannot use the asset. If I didn't pay for the site preparation لتحضير الموقع, I cannot use the asset. So all of these costs are essential to make use of the asset. Sales tax isn't essential. The same example, but now we have a trade-in. What we mean by trade-in, that the company has an old machine of the same type and they want to trade it in for $5,000. يعني بدهم يبدلوها بدهم يعطوها للشركة اللي حتبيعهم المعدل الجديدة مقابل $5,000. They want to give it to the select company of the equipment for $5,000. Therefore, the price of the new equipment will be less by $5,000. And this old machine have what we call it a book value of $4,000. يعني هاي المعدة إلها قيمة دفترية مقدارها $4,000. Now what is the cost basis for depreciation purposes؟ إيش راح تكون عندي الcost basis؟ Note that the book value اللي هي القيمة الدفترية is 4,000. What we mean by book value القيمة الدفترية, book value is like for internal use of the company. Every machine or every asset have its own logbook. في كل ماشين إلها logbook تبعها. This logbook includes the price of the machine, the maintenance cost, the emergency maintenance for this machine, or the maintenance history of this machine, and at the end you will see a book value. This is the value of the machine at the end of its service life. It is estimated by the company. الشركة اللي بتحدد ايش البوك فاليو. تمام؟ Now, first of all, we have the book value, $4,000, and the trade-in allowance is $5,000. So I have gains of $1,000. أنا الآن دخل علي أو عندي income of $1,000. How this income generated? أنا عندي ماشين قيمتها 4,000 بعتها ب5,000. So I gained 1,000. I have a machine that its value is 4,000. قيمتها is $4,000 and I sold it with $5,000. بعتها ب5,000. Therefore I have generated or I had a net income of $1,000. Okay? So I have gains of $1,000. Now to the cost basis or the cost of the machine. The price of the machine, freight, الشحن, installation, التركيب, والsite preparation. And remember, all of them are cost. Since we are using the term cost, there is a positive sign here. And the 1,000 is gains, يعني income, but because I'm considering cost, then gains is going to be negative. And therefore we put it in brackets. حطيناها داخل قوسين. داخل قوسين means it is negative. لأنه أنا قاعد بحكي عن cost تكلفة. تمام. فالcost of a new punching machine حتكون موجب. يعني نفي إثبات. تكاليف الشحن is positive. But the gains اللي هو المكسب أو income is negative. Minus 1,000. So the total cost basis is $67,875. $67,875. Remember the previous example, it was $68,875. So it is now less by 1,000, which is the unrecognized gains because I sold the machine with a price more than its book value لأني بعت الماشين بثمن أكبر من البوك value. Now let's consider what if I sold the machine with $3,000. ايش اللي بيصير لو انا بعت الماشين الان ب $3,000 instead of 5,000. So in this case I will have unrecognized loss of $1,000. So here is going to be 1,000. So the cost basis is going to be $69,875 because I sold the machine with the 3,000 while its worth is 4,000. أنا بعت الماشين ب 3,000 لكن هي فعليا بتسوى 4,000 فعشان هيك أنا خسرت 1,000. Now to the useful life and salvage value. Salvage value is estimated by the company at the end of the useful life of an asset. If there is no way to determine a salvage value for an equipment or there is no reference to determine its salvage value يعني ما في عندي طريقة لحتى أعرف إيش هي السالفج فاليو إلها أو ما في عندي حد بحكي لي أو ريفرنس بقدر أرجع له لحد يحدد لي السالفج فاليو الماشين تبعتي I can use the 10% rule. 10% rule means that the salvage value is 10% of the initial investment or the initial value of the machine. If I buy a machine for $1,000 and I use the 10% rule for the salvage value, then the salvage value of the machine at the end of its useful life is going to be 10% of the 1,000 equals to $100. Now, the useful life of the machine is for depreciation purposes is different than the useful life we considered in previous chapters. اليوسفul life اللي احنا بنستخدمه الان لاعمال depreciation is a little bit different. It can equal to the useful life that we have seen before or not necessarily. يعني بإمكانها تساوي نفس اليوسفul life اللي شفناها في المواضيع السابقة وإمكانها كمان إنها ما تسويها. For tax purposes we have the asset depreciation ranges, the ADR, as classified by IRS حسب ما حددتهم دائرة الضريبة والدخل. And we have 15 categories. عندنا 15 فئة. Okay, and for each category you will have a lower limit and upper limit for depreciation. And all types of assets are distributed among those 15 categories or classes. For example, buses have a depreciable life between 7 and 11 years and the midlife is 9 years. For example, vessels, barges, tugs and water transportation systems السفن والسفن النقل البحري depreciable life lower limit of 14.5 up to 21.5 years and a midlife of 18 years. What does this mean? This means that the company can choose any depreciable or useful life between 14.5 and 21.5 years. كانت تختار أي useful life ما بين ال 14 ونص وال 21 ونص for vessels and barges. It can choose the 14.5 years, it can choose the 16 years, 17 years, 20 years, 21 years, 21 and a half years. أي إشي ما بين lower and upper limit and it is the company decision to choose. Now, how to calculate depreciation? We can calculate depreciation using two methods. The book depreciation and tax depreciation. Book depreciation is used for internal use of the company like making reports for the investors and stakeholders. It is also used for pricing decisions, while the tax depreciation is used for income tax calculation by the IRS. التاكس ديبريشيشن احنا بنستخدمه لحساب للأغراض الضريبية أو للتقديم لحتى الشركة تقدم التقرير الضريبي إلها لدائرة الضريبة. And also we use it in engineering economic analysis. This table compares between book and tax depreciations. For cost basis, there is no difference between the book and tax depreciation. For the salvage value in book depreciation, the salvage value should equal the book value in the last year. Okay, if it doesn't equal, or if they are not equal, then we will have to make some adjustments. In the tax depreciation, all assets have zero salvage value. All assets, regardless of the type of the asset, it has a zero salvage value. For the depreciation life, we can use the ADR, asset depreciation ranges, in the book depreciation. For the tax depreciation, the IRS has determined 8 recovery periods. عندهم 8 فترات. They call them recovery periods: 3 years, 5 years, 7, 10, 15, 20, 27 and a half, and 39 years. Those are called recovery periods, and all the assets are classified according to those recovery periods. Now for the calculation method, in book depreciation we have three methods: straight line, accelerated methods or declining balance methods, unit of production method. For tax depreciation, it is determined by tax legislation, okay? But the calculation method is based on straight line and declining balance methods. It's a combination between straight line and declining balance methods. Now, book depreciation, straight line method. Straight line method, we assume that the asset is depreciated uniformly over its service life. الأسد تفقد قيمتها بشكل متساوي خلال عمرها، خلال depreciation life or service life. And how to calculate it? Depreciation in any year equals to I minus S over N. I is the cost basis, S is the salvage value, N is the useful life. And the book value in each year equals, or BN is the book value at any year, equals I minus N DN. I, which is the cost basis, N اللي هي year that I want to calculate the book life at, and depreciation is the depreciation calculated by the previous formula. And we see that the depreciation allowance is constant for all years. depreciation في السنة الأولى بيساوي depreciation في السنة الثانية، الثالثة، الرابعة، الخامسة. depreciation in the first year is the same as the second year, third, fourth, and fifth years. Let's consider this example. Buying a car, owning a car. The cost basis is $10,000. Useful life is 5 years. The salvage value is $2,000. We want to calculate the depreciation allowance for this car. D is I minus S divided by N. Cost basis 10,000 minus 2,000 divided by 5. The depreciation allowance is 1,600, 1,600. Okay, so we can construct a table like this. I'm only interested in this part of the table, which is the depreciation allowance and the book value. You will see that the depreciation allowance is uniform over the 5 years. Now to the book value. How we calculate the book value? We can use the formula BN equals I minus NDN. So in the first year it's going to be 10,000 minus 1 multiplied by 1,600. You will get 8,400. In the second year is going to be 10,000 minus 2 multiplied by 1,600. So it's going to be 680. Or we can calculate it as follows. 10,000 minus 1,600 will give 8,400. 8,400 minus 1600, 6800, and so on. 6800 minus 1600, 5200. Now, the second method is the declining balance. In the declining balance, the asset depreciates. Depreciation of a fixed asset is in a decreasing fashion. Or what does this mean? In declining balance method, the asset will have a high depreciation at the beginning of its useful life. راح يكون في عندي depreciation أعلى ما يكون في بداية depreciation life or useful life. And it will become less in the following years. Why is this? This is this method we allow larger depreciation at the beginning of the equipment or useful life, so there will be less tax or less tax deduction. اقتطاع ضريبي اقل. ليش احنا بنخلي الديبريشيشن اعلى في البدايه؟ فبالتالي راح يكون عندي الدخل الخاضع للضريبه اقل، فبالتالي اقتطاع ضريبي اقل. less taxable income. Why is this? This is to give a chance for the company or the business to recover some of the cost that was paid in acquiring the asset. لحتى الضريبة أو دائرة الضريبة تسمح للشركة أو البزنس إنه يسترجع جزء من التكاليف اللي دفعها لحتى يمتلك هالايكوبمنت هاي، يمتلك المعدة هاي. يعني لحتى دائرة الضريبة تساعد الشركات إنها إيش؟ تسترد جزء من الانفستمنت اللي عملته، بدل ما تاخذ منها اقتطاع ضريبي عالي في البدايه. انا لسه يعني مركب الاكوبمنت جديد عندي ودافع عليها مبلغ كبير للشراء والتركيب الى اخره. تمام. ولسه انا خلينا نحكي في بدايه البزنس تبعي، لسه انا ما عملتش ريبيوتيشن، لسه السيلز تبعي I didn't reach the optimum sales. If the tax or the tax deduction was high at the beginning, this means that the business or the opportunity for the business to recover or to strengthen is going to be less or lower. فبالتالي الفرصة المتاحة للشغل تبعي وللبزنس أو للشركة لحتى إنها تتعافى من هالانفستمنت اللي عملته، إنها خلينا نحكي to generate more money and to reinvest internally will become less, and therefore the chances or the risk of closing becomes higher. Therefore we allow a large depreciation in the first years so that the tax becomes less and there will be more money to reinvest internally. How to calculate it? We have this formula. Depreciation at any year equals alpha multiplied by the investment 1 minus alpha to the power n minus 1. Alpha is 1 over n multiplied by a multiplier. The multiplier, we have two multipliers. Either we use 1.5 or 2. يا اما نستخدم 1.5 او 2 multipliers. The 1.5 we call it 150% declining balance. The 2 we call it 200% declining balance or sometimes double declining balance. يعني عندنا حرية الاختيار ما بين الاثنين والواحد ونص. Which one to choose, 1.5 or 2, depends on the type of the asset. Some assets are depreciated according to 150% declining balance. Other assets are depreciated according to double declining balance. And the book value at any year equals I for 1 multiplied by 1 minus alpha to the power n. Now, the problem in declining balance method is that not always the book value in the last year equals the salvage value. It can equal it, it can be greater than the salvage value, and it can be less than the salvage value. In the first case, there's no problem. Okay? From, let's say, tax laws point of view, if the book value equals the salvage value, then there's no problem. In the other two cases, there is a problem. If the salvage value is greater or less than the book value, then I have to make some adjustments so that book value in the last year equals the salvage value. And we will see this in the following examples. The car example, but this time the salvage value is $778. If we calculate the multiplier alpha, alpha equals 1.5 multiplied by 2, we are using double decline balance, so the alpha is 0.4. For the first year, 0.4 multiplied by 10,000, 1 minus 0.4 to the power 1 minus 1. Depreciation allowance in the first year is 4,000. The book value, we apply the formula, is 6,000. And we can continue in this for the remaining years. 4,000, 2,400 in the second year, $1,440 in the third year, 864 and 518 in this last year, and the book value is as shown. And we note that the book value in the last year is equal to the salvage value. In this case, there is no problem. Now to the second case, when the book value is greater than the salvage value. The same example, but in this case, the salvage value is 0. Now, in this case, we haven't depreciated all the cost of the asset over its useful life, and therefore there are some benefits that we didn't make use of. The company didn't make use of. So in this case, when the book value is greater than the salvage value, we will switch from declining balance method to a straight line method. This is how we deal with the situation. We will make a switch from declining balance to a straight line depreciation at a certain period of time. How to determine this period of time? If the depreciation calculated by declining balance is less or equal to the one calculated by straight line, we switch to straight line and continue with straight line. Or in other words, if depreciation calculated by declining balance less than or equal to depreciation calculated by straight line, we switch to straight line depreciation and continue with straight line depreciation. And the straight line depreciation calculation formula is as follows. It is the book value at the beginning of that year minus the salvage value divided by the remaining useful life of the asset. So in our example, we will calculate the depreciation using the straight line method and calculate the depreciation using double declining balance. In the double declining balance, we have calculated previously in the previous example, this one. Okay, so what is remaining is to calculate the depreciation using the straight line method and compare it with the double declining balance method. So in the second year, we will start from the second year. The first year is calculated according to declining balance. So in the second year, the book value of the previous year is 6,000. This is the book value in the previous year, divided by the remaining useful years. Of course, minus 0, which is the salvage value, divided by 4, which is the remaining useful years. The first year already gone. يعني السنة الأولى راحت. ضل عندي أنا في الأسد كم؟ 4 سنوات. The answer is 1,500. The double declining depreciation is 2,400. So we will not switch in the second year. We go to the third year. The book value of the previous year, 3,600, minus the salvage value 0, divided by 3, the remaining useful years, 1,200. The depreciation calculated by declining balance, double declining balance, 14,400, 1440. Therefore, we will not switch in the third year. In the fourth year, the book value of the previous year, 2160 minus 0 divided by 2 years, the remaining useful years in the asset, $1,080. So in this case, and depreciation calculated by the double declining is 864. Therefore, 1080 is greater than 864. We will switch to straight line in the fourth year and remain with straight line method. And this is the resulting depreciation schedule for our asset. If you see that in the fourth year, we switch to straight line, and the fifth year we remain straight line, $1,080, and the salvage value is 0. And those are calculated as in the previous example. The third case, when the book value is less than the salvage value. The same example, but now we will assume that our salvage value is $2,000. In this case, of course, tax laws doesn't allow to depreciate an asset lower than its salvage value. يعني القوانين الضريبة ما بتسمح لي اني اخلي البوك فاليو للاسيت تبعتي اقل من السالفج فاليو. The book value should equal the salvage value. So in this case, when we reach to the point where the book value becomes less, we will stop depreciating the asset. راح نوقف عملية depreciation. يعني بعبارة أخرى, if any point in time, if the book value is lower than the salvage value, the depreciation amounts are adjusted so that the book value equals the salvage value. يعني إذا أنا وصلت لعند النقطة صار عندي البوك value أقل من السالفج, الآن بروح للسنة اللي قبلها, I go to the previous year and adjust the depreciation rate so that the book value equals the salvage value in the next year. The same example, the previous example, we will calculate the depreciation double declining balance as in the first example, 4,000, 2014, 2,400, $1,440, and this is the book value, $3,600, and in the third year, $2,160. Now, if I go to the fourth year, and the depreciation in the fourth year is 864, and if I calculate the book value according to a depreciation of 864 as in the first example, the book value is going to be $1,296. In the fourth year, if I keep calculating as in the previous example, the book value of the fourth year is going to be $1,296, which is less than the salvage value of $2,000. So what to do in this case? In this case, I will adjust the depreciation allowance, okay, so that the book value in the fourth year will equal to $2,000. How to do that? How to do the adjustment? The depreciation allowance D in the fourth year will be equals to the book value of the previous year minus the salvage value. This is the book value of the third year minus the salvage value equals $160. So this is the depreciation allowance in the fourth year, and the book value in that year is going to be 2,000, and since I have reached the book value in the fourth year, there is no depreciation allowance in the fifth year. Depreciation in the fifth year is 0, and the book value in the last year or the fifth year is $2,000. Now, units of production method depends on the consumed units. It's not time-phased fashion. We depreciate an asset based on how much I use it or how much it is used. and it is useful in using with equipment used to exploit natural resources. For example, equipment used in mining. المعدات اللي بنستخدمها للتعدين. تمام. The formula is the depreciation equals to service units consumed during a certain year, how many units of that machine are consumed, divided by the total available units, multiplied by I minus S. عدد الوحدات المستهلكة خلال سنة معينة مقسومة على total units available, service units available, multiplied by the investment أو cost basis minus salvage value. Example, a truck for hauling coal has an estimated net cost of $55,000. شاحنة بنستخدمها احنا في نقل الفحم سعرها $55,000. Its expected service is 250,000 miles. متوقع انها تمشي عندي 250,000 ميل. Its salvage value is $5,000. Compute the allowed depreciation amount for the truck usage of 30,000 miles. إذا استخدمتها في سنة معينة 30,000 ميل كم راح يكون عليها depreciation؟ Depreciation is units consumed 30,000 divided by available units multiplied by I cost basis 55,000 minus salvage value 5,000, so the depreciation allowance is $6,000. معدل depreciation عليها $6,000 إذا أنا استخدمت 30,000 ميل في هذيك السنة. Now we come to the tax depreciation methods. Tax depreciation methods is used for for determining income tax. In 1986, of course, tax depreciation had gone through several phases, and the current form of tax depreciation goes back to 1986. The Congress approved what we call Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System, MACRS, to calculate depreciation allowances for tax purposes. And in the MACRS system, or the goal of the MACR system, is to shorten depreciable lives of assets لحتى يخلي depreciable life للأسد أقل, okay? And therefore giving the businesses larger depreciation deductions in the early years. وبالتالي بنسبح اقتطاع أو نسبح depreciation allowance كمية depreciation أعلى في السنوات الأولى. تمام؟ Which results in lower tax in the first years and increased cash flow for available cash flows available for reinvestment. وبالتالي بنقلل من الضرائب في بداية عمر المشروع لحتى نسمح لهم يكون عندهم فلوس أكثر لحتى الشركة ترجع تستثمرها في نفس البزنس تبعها. In tax depreciation there are three main points: the half-year convention, the switching from declining balance to straight line method, and mid-month convention for real property. Half-year convention, it is assumed that any asset is placed in service at the mid-year, regardless of when the asset became in service. يعني الأغراض الضريبية احنا بنفترض انه الاسد دخلت الخدمة في نصف السنة، بغض النظر فعليا انا وين امتى شغلتها. For example, I can put the asset at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. From MACR's point of view, it doesn't make a difference. We will always assume that the asset is placed at the mid of the year, and placed in the service at the mid of the year. Therefore, the depreciation in the first year, or the allowed depreciation in the first year, is half, because the asset is placed in the mid-year. The depreciation allowance is half in the first year. Half of the half-year depreciation is allowed in the first year. And also note that the asset have a zero salvage value. الاسد إلها zero salvage value. تمام. وبما انه الاسد دخلت الخدمه عندي في نص السنه، فمعناته انا في السنه الاولى دائره الضريبه راح تسمح لي بنصف قيمه الديبريشيشن خلال السنه الاولى. In the remaining years, they will allow full depreciation in the remaining years, and we will add a half year depreciation at the end. لانه احنا في السنه الاولى سمحنا في depreciation مقداره نص سنه، حيضل عندي انا نص سنه. And half year depreciation is allowed at the end of the recovery period. For example, if an asset have recovery period of 3 years, in the first year we will allow half year depreciation, and then 2 full depreciations in the second and third years, and a half year depreciation after the recovery period at the fourth year. The second point is we will do a switch from declining balance to a straight line method. When we do the switch, when the straight line depreciation is greater or equal to the declining balance depreciation, as illustrated in example 9.5. زي ما شفنا في example 9.5. And when we do the switch, when the straight line depreciation became larger than the declining balance depreciation, we switch to straight line. And also this is how to calculate tax depreciation. We will do a switch from declining balance to straight line لما يصير عندي straight line depreciation greater or equal to declining balance, and continue with straight line. And the last point is the mid-month convention for real property. In real properties like buildings, the switch, we use straight line method and mid-month convention. What we mean by mid-month convention is that the asset, we will assume the asset is placed in service at the mid of the month. For example, let's assume that an asset is placed in March, for example. Then the depreciation allowance will be for the first year will be 9.5 months depreciation for the first year. يعني لو حطيت انا الاسد عندي في شهر 3، حطيت الاسد عندي في الخدمة بشهر 3، فبالتالي الديبريشيشن عندي في السنة الأولى راح يسمحوا لي ب9 أشهر ونص depreciation على الاسد تبعتي خلال السنة الأولى. Now, to the recovery periods. In tax depreciation, we do not use ADR. We use like a modified type of ADR. We call it recovery periods. And we have 8 recovery periods. 3, 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, 70, 27.5, and 39 years. Those are the recovery periods as classified by MACRS. And all the assets are distributed among those 8 classes. For example, the 3 years special tools for manufacturing plastic products, fabricated metals, metal products, and motor vehicles. The 5-year class is for automobiles, light trucks, high-tech equipment. For example, 27.5 years is for residential rental property, المباني السكنية. 39 years is for non-residential real property, المباني الغير سكنية, or for commercial use. And those are the MACR depreciation percentages. وهي هي النسب اللي احنا بنستخدمها في ال MACRS أو tax depreciation. The percentage we use in tax depreciation. How to use this table? Just see the classification of your asset. For example, if I have an asset that's classified 7 years, all what I have to do is to use those percentages and multiply the cost basis I with those percentages. For example, in the first year it will be I multiplied by 0.1429. In the second year it's going to be I multiplied by 24.49. The depreciation allowance in the third year is going to be I multiplied by this is 0.2449, 0.1749. and so on. The third year is going to be I multiplied 0.1249, I multiplied 0.893, and this star here, 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 and here is where we switch from declining balance to a straight line method. We do the switch at the, for example, in our case, 7 year class property, we will do the switch at the 5th year from straight line to from declining balance to a straight line, and we continue with a straight line depreciation. Now, how did we calculate those percentages? Let's see this example 9.8 and see how the percentages are calculated and how to calculate the tax depreciation. A taxpayer wants to place a service a 10,000 asset that is assigned to a 5-year class. واحد عنده asset مصنفة على إنها 5-year class asset. He wants to place it in to depreciate it according to MACRS percentages and how the depreciation allowance in each year. Now, if you notice in this table that we have depreciation rate 200, 200, 150%, 150%. So for assets of classes 3, 5, 7, and 10, we use the double declining balance depreciation. And for assets classified as 15 and 20 years, we use the 150% declining balance rate. Okay, so for a class 5 year, we use a double declining balance, and we will switch from double declining balance straight line when the straight line depreciation is greater or equal to double declining balance depreciation. يعني احنا للاسيت مصنفة من الفئة الخامسة حسب ال MACRS راح نعملها double declining balance depreciation. تمام، وراح نعمل سويتش من double declining لستريت لاين لما الستريت لاين يساوي او اكبر من ال double declining depreciation, and we will apply the half year convention in the first year. ما ننسى. Therefore, for the calculation, we first will calculate the percentages. We are not going to calculate depreciation allowance. We first are going to calculate depreciation to show you how we calculated the percentages given in this table. And then we will calculate depreciation allowance. So, for the first year, we will use double declining balance and half year. Okay, but first we have to calculate alpha. Alpha is 1 over n multiplied by the multiplier, which is in this case 2. 1 divided by 5 multiplied by 2 is 0.4. The depreciation percentage in the first year, double declining percentage, is 0.5 multiplied by 0.4 multiplied by 100%. Why we use 0.5? Because it is half year depreciation. نص سنة عليها depreciation لنص سنة. And 100%, this means that the full cost basis of the asset. يعني الاسset ما صار عليها أي depreciation. So the percentage is 20%. So the percentage in the first year is going to be 20%. Now, for the second year, in the second year, we will have to calculate the double declining and straight line and do the switch according to the rule. So double declining balance is going to be 0.4 multiplied by the cost basis of the asset. Remember that the salvage value is 0. The asset is used, or the book value of the previous year. You can use the investment minus the salvage, or you can use 0.4 multiplied by the book value from the previous year. The book value from the previous year is 100% minus 20%, and the answer is 32%. From straight line method, 1 divided by 4.5, 100% minus 20%. 1 على 4 ونص. Why 4.5? This is the remaining useful years in the asset. We depreciated half year in the first year, and therefore the remaining useful years are 4.5 years of the asset, multiplied by the book value. This is the book value from the previous year. The percentage is 17.78%. Therefore, we will use or choose the highest depreciation allowance, which is the double declining balance. And we continue to the third year the same way. 0.4 multiplied by the book value of the previous year. This is the book value of the previous year. The answer is 19.2. The straight line depreciation 1 divided by 3.5. 3.5 is the remaining useful years in the asset, multiplied by the book value 13.71. We will choose the highest depreciation allowance, which is the declining balance. In the fourth year, the same. We calculate the double declining percentage, 11.52%. The straight line depreciation 1 divided by 2.5 multiplied by the book value, 11.25. In this case, we see that both double declining balance and straight line are equal. So we will do the switch in the fourth year. We will switch to a straight line and remain with straight line. In the fifth year, whether we calculated it or not, is going to be 11.52, because straight line depreciation is constant over the years. It doesn't change from year to another year. And for the last year, we have now we have half year depreciation remaining. So the last depreciation percentage is 1.5 multiplied by 11.52, 5.76 depreciation for the remaining half year. And this is the depreciation allowance. We just multiply 10,000, which is the investment, by the percentages. Multiply the 10,000 by the 20%, we will get 2,000, and the book value is 10,000 minus 2,000, 8,000, and so on. And if you can see that the percentages that we have calculated are the same percentages in the table. For a 5-year class asset. تمام? Therefore, in real applications, we do not have to calculate the percentages every time. We just use the percentages in this table. ما علينا بس نستخدم النسب اللي عندنا في الجدول. زي ما قلنا لكم نحدد ضمن أي فئة الأسيت اللي عندي, determine in which category our asset belongs to, 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 or 20 years, and just use the percentages and multiply them by the investment. نشوف البرسنتج اللي حسبناهم ونضربهم في مين؟ في الانفستمنت اللي عندي لحتى نحدد قيمة الديبريشيشن. Now to the last topic in this chapter, depletion. Depletion is used for the reduction in natural resources. We cannot apply depreciation for natural resources, but natural resources deplete over time. يعني ايش بصير لها؟ استنزاف. خلينا نحكي زي مثلا المناجم الذهب، الفضة، الحديد، الفوسفات، البوتاس. تمام. Natural resources tend to deplete, not depreciate, like mines, gold mines, silver mines, iron, phosphate, إلى آخره. Okay, and it is not time phased. Doesn't depend on time. For example, I can deplete natural resource in different ways. The same resource or the same mine, I can extract the resources at different rates. So For calculating the depletion rate, we have two methods. First, we have what we call it cost depletion. It is similar to units of a production method. Cost depletion rate is the adjusted basis of a mineral property divided by total number of recoverable units multiplied by number of units sold. يعني الادجستد basis تقسيم عدد الوحدات المتاحة عندي total number available of recoverable units multiplied by قديش أنا بعت. And the adjusted basis is all the cost, all the allowable cost on a property minus its salvage value. هاي هي ال adjusted basis اللي هي all of the allowable cost for a property ناقص ايش ال salvage value لهذيك ال property. The other method is the percentage depletion. In percentage depletion, it is based on as a percentage of the gross income from that property. يعني مبني الاساس الحساب تبعه مبني على الجروس انكم، يعني بناخذ نسبة من الجروس انكم. We take a percentage of the gross income in that year. And the formula to calculate the percentage depletion, we should make sure that the computed percentage depletion, okay, we take the computed percentage depletion as a percentage of the gross income or 50% of the taxable income, whichever is smaller. أيهما أقل. يعني I will calculate the percentage depletion as a percent of the income, gross income. Gross income يعني what we mean by gross income الدخل الكلي. Okay, gross income is the total income, or 50% of the taxable income أو 50% من الدخل الخاضع للضريبة. بناخذ الأصغر فيهم. Which of them is smaller؟ أيهما أقل؟ And those are the percentage depletion allowances for mineral properties. هذول هي النسب اللي احنا بنستخدمها للpercentage depletion. Those are the percentages we use for the percentage depletion. And just see what property do I have and choose ايش the appropriate percentage. For example, oil and gas wells, 15% that are used for domestic and gas production. For sulfur and uranium deposits, 22%. For example, coal, lignite and sodium chloride, 10%. For example, clay used for roofing tiles, gravel, sand and stone, 5%. Clay and shale used for making sewer pipes and bricks, 7.5%. So according to what type of property I have, I choose the appropriate depletion rate or depletion percentage. Example 9.10. Suppose you bought a timber tract for $200,000 and the land was worth $80,000. واحد اشترى عقد لحتى يقطع الخشب. العقد قيمته 200,000 والأرض اللي حيشتغل عليها قيمتها 80,000. The adjusted basis for the timber is therefore $120,000. وبالتالي ال adjusted basis عندي كم حتكون؟ اللي هو timber tract اللي هو العقد 200,000 minus ال 80,000 اللي هو قيمة الأرض. لأن في النهاية حبيع الأرض ب 80,000. At the end I will sell the land for 80,000. Therefore the adjusted basis is going to be 200 minus 80,000. Okay? The tract has an estimated of 1.5 million board feet. 1.5 مليون board feet, 1.5 million board feet of standing timber. يعني في عندي يعني طبعا board feet وحدة قياس كمية الخشب اللي موجودة في الغابة هاي. يعني 1.5 مليون قدم من الألواح الخشبية. If you cut 0.5 million board feet of timber, determine your allowable depletion rate or depletion allowance. Adjusted basis divided by total number of units multiplied by number of units sold. Therefore, the adjusted basis is 120,000 divided by 1.5 million multiplied by 0.5 million board feet. So the depletion allowance is $40,000. Another example, a gold mine with an estimated deposits of 120,000 ounces of gold has a basis of $30 million. This is the cost, the adjusted cost, or the cost minus land value. The mine has a gross income of $16,425 for the year from selling 18,000 ounces. هذا المنجم اجى عليه 16 مليون 425 الف دولار لانهم باعوا 18,000 اونصة من الذهب at a unit cost of $912.5 per ounce. Mining expenses before depletion equal to $12,250. Compute the percentage depletion allowance. Would it be advantageous to apply cost depletion rather than percentage depletion؟ يعني منجم الاحتياطات المقدرة 120 ألف أونصة من الذهب، الادجستد بيسز 30 مليون، الآن باع 18 ألف أونصة، جابوا له دخل 16 مليون 425 ألف. الآن تكاليف كانت عليه للاستخراج والبيع إلى آخره خلال هذيك السنة 12 مليون و250 ألف. تمام. المطلوب منا نحسب البرسنتج ديبليشن ونحسب الكوست ديبليشن ونشوف مين افضل برسنتج ولا الكوست ديبليشن. For the percentage depletion, منجم الذهب has a 15% depletion allowance. We go to the table 911 gold mine, gold, silver and copper mines. The percentage depletion allowance is 15%. Therefore, the cost depletion is the gross income multiplied by 15%. Gross income is $16,425 multiplied by 15%. The percentage depletion is $2,463,750. Now, we need to calculate the taxable income, and remember that the percentage depletion shouldn't, or we have to check 50% of the taxable income and choose the smallest. Now, the taxable income is the revenue minus the cost. $16,425 minus $12,250,000, $12,250. The taxable income is $4,175,000. Multiplied by 50% is the deduction limit. Therefore, the maximum depletion deduction is $2,087,500. Now we will choose the smallest amount. يعني حسب البرسنتج depletion لازم أحسب as a percent of the gross income and compare it with 50% of the taxable income and choose which is the smallest. The maximum depletion deduction is $2,087,500 is less than the computed percentage depletion, then the depletion allowance is $2,087,500. Now we will come to the cost depletion. Adjusted basis at total number of available units multiplied by the number of sold units. The adjusted basis is 30 million divided by 120,000. This is the available amount of gold in the mine multiplied by 18,000. The sold amount of gold is $4.5 million. In this case, since the cost depletion is greater than the percentage depletion, the percent $2,087,000 and $500. This is the percentage depletion. Since the cost depletion is higher than the percentage depletion, it is better to choose the cost depletion. من الأفضل إنه الواحد إيش يختار الcost depletion. And since the law يعني القانون ما بيمنعها. The law doesn't mind which method you choose. It's up to the company. Since the cost depletion is higher, it is better to choose the cost depletion. يعني القانون بيسمح للشخص اللي بده او للتاكس باير للدافعي الضرائب، القانون بيسمح لهم انهم يختاروا طريقة الدبلشن اللي هم بفضلوها. And this diagram shows how to calculate the percentage depletion. First, you need to calculate 50% of the taxable income and a percentage of the gross income. Which of them is greater? Which of them is less? Choose it and compare it with cost depletion. And the one that gives you a greater depletion rate is your depletion rate. And we come to the end of this chapter. Assalamu alaikum.